Welcome to Just Start, Get Visible, your go-to resource of the journey to becoming more visible in a way that feels right for you. Hey there. Welcome back to yet another episode of Just Start, Get Visible. It's Jacqueline here. And if you have been tuning in for this month's series, all about visibility that feels aligned, something's a little different, right? This microphone is in frame. And normally I'm an out of frame microphone girl for recording, but we're trying something different. And we're going to see if I like it any differently with it being in frame. So if you don't see it and the final episode is a part of this series, then you know I didn't like it. At any rate, I am thrilled about episode number 265 because in continuing in our journey of making sure that we're maximizing our anchor episode, which was number 262 with our special guest, Kaylan Martin, we're talking about the difference between force and power as it relates to you getting visible in a way that feels right for you. Because I do want you to feel the magic of power versus the angst of force as you are giving yourself permission to be more visible. So, of course, we're exploring visibility all through the lens of alignment, of authenticity, and intentionality this month. And if you didn't get the opportunity to listen to episode number 262, I invite you at some point to rewind on back and watch it or listen to it because it sets a lot of the foundation for all the other things that we're talking about this month. You can listen to this independently without having to go back, but it really is good. Kaylan introduces this concept of force versus power and the difference between moving with force and moving with power. And when she first said it, it really didn't, it sounded interesting and it sounded prominent and it sounded like something meaningful to say, but I don't think I really digested the magnitude of what she said until I sat in it. And I was doing a little bit more research around how we were going to further build out the other supporting episodes for the month. And just even if you think about it and try to visualize it, the difference in feeling between force and power, right? And how you move and activate your own power versus force, right? And how it can feel and flow a little bit different. And I realized that the reason why I passed over that powerful statement is because at a first glance, those two words absolutely sound similar, right? After all, both of them do create movement. Both produce results, both force and power. Both can help you accomplish things, but they create very different experiences. Force often leaves you feeling exhausted. Let's just call it. The other leaves you feeling energized. One feels like pushing and the other feels like alignment. Like this is where I'm supposed to be. One depends on constant effort, and I'm all about some effort. But if something means constant effort, like that can be a lot sometimes. And the other creates sustainable momentum where like you're moving, but you're moving in a way that's sustainable where it doesn't require any type of force. Today, we're going to explore the differences between force and power and how recognizing that difference can completely change the way that you approach visibility, leadership, depending on where you're at, work, and even life. All right, so let's get started. You know the deal. We cover lots of sections to make sure that you have something meaningful and tangible to walk away with after you spend this short bit of time, but also this impactful bit of time with me. So I want you to think about the notion that many of us were taught to force our way forward, force our way into spaces. It's almost like by default. For most of our lives, we have been rewarded for effort, right? And the effort that has been the result of force. Working harder, pushing through, keeping grinding, not stopping, not slowing down, not quitting. And I do understand and am somebody who appreciates like hard work. Like I've been the recipient of putting out hard work for a long time. So I understand its place and its importance. And while persistence absolutely matters, a lot of people accidentally learn a dangerous lesson. And I learned it. That if something feels difficult, the answer is always to push harder and always like I got to meet that same level of velocity to get those same results. But as we learned in our last episode, every situation that we're in, success means something different. So if we're pushing the same to get results that we think are going to get us to where we want to go, we may not even be in the same situation. And sometimes that's true. Like sometimes pushing harder will get you results, but not always, nor is it always necessary because there is a big difference between perseverance and force. Force often looks like this. Force looks like continuing something that no longer aligns, right? Saying yes when you don't want to say, when you really want to say no, when you don't want to say yes. Creating opportunities that drain you. Like you create the opportunity and it's like, yay, yay, but it drains you. Constantly overriding your own intuition, right? Spider tingling, whatever, whatever it is for you. Or ignoring like exhaustion in pursuit of achievement because it, you're not a machine. You can only endure so much. So the challenge is that force can look productive from the outside and may even work for a while. People may even praise it. And we talked in our last episode about praise and how sometimes that praise that we're getting is what keeps us showing up when in fact that praise can't be controlled if it's coming from other people. But internally, it often creates a lot of tension for ourselves. And over time, tension leads to burnout. So I want you to just accept this notion that many of us were taught to force our way forward in lots of places in our life. But force has a feeling. This is our section 2 I want us to focus on. Let's make this real practical when I talk about force has a feeling. Force often feels like I have to, I should, everyone else is doing it. I can't say no. I need to prove myself, right? I'll be left behind if I don't do this. I want you to notice the language in that. I can't say no. I'll be left behind. I need to prove myself. Force is often driven by pressure, right? Fear, obligation, scarcity is not enough, comparison, urgency, go, go, go. And when you're operating from a place of force, everything feels heavy. Like you may still achieve success, you may still accomplish impressive things, but every win seems to require an unsustainable amount of effort. Like go, 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 drill, drill, drill. It's like driving with the emergency brake on. Like you might have a little bit of movement, but it is a slog, right? It's slogging through it. You're moving, but you're working way harder than what's necessary. And a lot of people, including me, I had to deal with this, don't recognize that we're operating from force because we've been doing it for so long. Like it feels normal. It feels like, oh, this must be what it's supposed to feel like. This feels familiar, right? And when our amygdala feels you doing something different, that's why we're often like pausing, like, oh, wait, this feels different because it is different. It may ultimately be something that's better for us and easier for us, but we've normalized it, right? It feels responsible to work at that pace, but normal and healthy are not always the same thing. Okay. And remember that this month we're talking about visibility that aligns, right? Not visibility that's forced, because that is what's sustainable. So let me tell you what power feels like. And I want you to like visualize this in your mind as I'm telling you. Power creates movement as well. Okay. But it feels very different. Power often sounds like this matters, this aligns, this feels right. I choose this, right? This actually reflects my values. This supports where I'm going. Like power doesn't eliminate effort. Let's be clear here. Right? I'm not trying to say take the lazy route. I'm not somebody who gets even excited about lazy routes or routes that don't encourage effort. But alignment is not the same as ease. Okay. Sometimes aligned decisions are difficult. So, but we can do hard things. Sometimes they require courage. Sometimes they require sacrifice. But even difficult aligned decisions create a different kind of energy, right? We walk away feeling like, yeah, like I feel good about that. It was hard, but I feel good about that. So instead of draining you, it strengthens your connection to yourself because it's who you are anyway. You leave maybe tired. Let's be honest. When you're using your power, you might feel tired, but you feel fulfilled versus that, man, I got that done. And I got that done just like somebody else got it done. However, I don't feel very accomplished. Why? Because you may have copied their success goals. You might feel stretched when you're using your power, but you often still feel grounded. And that's the difference, right? So power creates movement through alignment. Force creates movement through pressure, right? And I want you to feel the alignment versus the pressure. And, I talk quite a bit on the Just Start Get Visible podcast about fear because I get it. In this world of starting the things that you really want to do, stepping into new spaces, like, let's be honest, like fear can play a role in that. And I want to talk about, is it resistance or fear that you're feeling in section 4? And this is where I believe things get interesting because not everything uncomfortable is misaligned. We can do hard things. Sometimes people abandon opportunities too quickly because they mistake fear for alignment, right? I say all the time, there are lots of stages I get on. Well, I feel a bit of discomfort. I feel a bit of fear, but that doesn't mean I'm not supposed to be there. I'm just a little fearful. I'm fearful that I'm going to show up in a way that I truly want to and leave nuggets and information and wisdom and frameworks that these people sitting in the audience are going to absorb and do something with. Fearful that anyone may feel like they wasted their time by sitting with me and giving me their time that they're never going to get back. So I want to talk about fear just a little bit more, because fear often sounds like, what if I fail, right? What if I'm not ready? What if people judge me? What if I embarrass myself? Fear frequently appears when you're growing. Okay. And I am one of those people who is constantly stretching myself to grow. So I have to also digest that, girl, you feel fearful quite a bit because you're constantly stretching. And I choose to do that. When you're visible, right? Fear frequently appears when you're growing. Okay. And often being visible is a byproduct of you growing. When you're trying something new, when you're stepping into leadership, when you're raising your hand for opportunities, when you're starting, fear doesn't automatically mean stop. In fact, sometimes fear is evidence that you're heading towards growth, right? It's like, okay, this feels different. This feels different. I'm growing. I'm stretching. Misalignment sounds and feels different. Okay. Misalignment often sounds like, this isn't who I am. This no longer fits. This conflicts with my values. I'm becoming someone that I don't recognize. I don't even recognize myself. One truly requires courage, and the other requires course correction. And learning the difference of one of the most important leadership skills is essential here, right? Because it is going to continue to show up in your world. And I want you to just pause and think, particularly when we're trying something new, we're in moments of transition. Is this resistance, right? Or is this fear? Like, which one is this? I also want to encourage you to think about momentum, right? How you can continue to get momentum, to leverage momentum without self abandonment, abandoning who you are. One big misconception that I have witnessed and experienced about alignment is that it can slow you down. People think that, okay, alignment is gonna slow me down. And I would argue the opposite, actually. Alignment often accelerates progress, right? Because you're no longer spending energy pretending. Like, have you ever felt like I've been pretending? I've been faking it till I make it a little bit too much. You're no longer trying to maintain a version of yourself that doesn't even fit. Like, that's not even who you were in the first place. You're no longer carrying commitments that you should have released a long time ago, that your ego actually has been keeping you hold on to. So I want you to imagine how much energy becomes available when you stop fighting yourself. When it's like, you know what? I am in alignment here. I'm supposed to be here. And that's where sustainable momentum lives, not in hustle, right? Not in constant productivity. And trust me, I love some productivity, but not in constant productivity, not in proving anything to anybody outside of yourself, but in alignment. And this doesn't mean every day feels magical. You know, I'm all about some magical situations. It doesn't mean that. Like, I have hard days. People that I know who do really good work have hard days. It means, though, that you're moving in a direction that supports the person that you're becoming. Okay. And that matters. Like, that absolutely matters, because long-term success requires sustainability. You can't build a meaningful life, right, meaningful career, meaningful whatever it is that you're building or starting, while constantly abandoning yourself in the process. So I want to give you a tool. I'm going to give you a quick force versus power audit. And I want to leave you with just this really simple exercise. And just like we've been doing for the rest of this month, if you need to pause this episode and continue as you're doing the exercise, feel free to do it. I want you to think about one commitment, opportunity, or even a project or goal you're currently pursuing. Just one. Don't put down six. Okay. Do not go for extra credit, because there are no extra credit points to receive on this one. Just one commitment, one opportunity, one project, one goal that you're pursuing. And I want you to ask yourself, am I pursuing this because I genuinely want it, right? Or because I feel obligated? Does this align with my values or my need for validation? It's a big one there. Values or validation. Does it create energy or consistently deplete it? Consistently. Every time you think about this project or even the notion of this project, it's like, oh my gosh, I am depleted. Am I motivated by purpose or pressure? And that's a tough one for me, because I operate really well under pressure. And sometimes when I'm up to the wire, I'm not a procrastinator, but the pressure moves me. Like, I get it done. I was talking to one of my accountability partners about this the other day. I perform, right? If nobody else knew I was doing this, would I still choose it, right? These questions won't always provide immediate answers, but it allows you to pause and reflect. And there's so much power in pausing. It can reveal whether you're moving from force or power. Okay. And that awareness can literally change everything. Before we really wrap up this episode, I know it was pretty meaty, quick but meaty. Let me just recap with you, right? Because I want to make sure that you're clear about what we covered and where there are opportunities for you to go and take action. I want you to first think about the fact that many of us were taught to force our way forward, work harder, push through, grind, grit, all the things. I want you to remember what force feels like and also what power feels like. It's two very separate feelings. And to evaluate, is this resistance or is this fear? And to remember that fear isn't always a terrible thing, okay? Remember that momentum is possible without self-abandonment. You can move forward without abandoning who you are. And I also want you to know that you can conduct a really quick audit, a quick force versus power audit with the notions and the questions that I asked you to ensure that you're operating from a place of power or you're working towards operating from a place of power and not just force. Okay. As we wrap up today's episode, I want you to remember this. Force can create movement. I'm not saying that you're not moving, but power creates sustainability. And force can produce results. Not saying that it can't produce results, but power produces alignment. And I want you to experience the feeling around that. Force depends on pressure and power depends on purpose. And isn't that magical? And when visibility is built on power versus force, it becomes something entirely different. It becomes authentic and sustainable, an extension of who you actually truly are, not a performance of who you think you're supposed to be. As always, I want to thank you for joining me for yet another episode of Just Start Get Visible. Wherever you're at in the world, I hope that you're safe, I hope that you're healthy, and I hope that you're well. And I certainly hope that you're giving yourself permission to start the things that you truly want to do and get visible in a way that feels right for you. All right. I look forward to seeing you for episode number 266. We're rolling out here as we close out our series for the month. And make sure that you get all the tools and all of the insights that you need to help you get visible in a way that feels right for you and where it aligns. All right. So I look forward to seeing you for the very next episode. You take care of yourself and I'll see you again real soon. Ciao. Welcome to Just Start Get Visible, your go-to resource of the journey to becoming more visible in a way that feels right for you.